the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez. Senator, thank you very much for being back on the show.
Good to be with you, Hallie.
And I will pose the same question to you that I posed to my colleague in Iran right now. The vice president says that intelligence showed the Iranians meant to target and kill Americans. The Iranians appeared to not be doing that. How do we square what we're hearing from the administration on the one hand and from reporting behind the scenes on the other?
Well, I think you have to look at what we factually know. One of the things that we clamor and care about is the sophistication of Iran's missile development. It's one of the things that we seek to constrain beyond their nuclear program. You can't say that they have a sophisticated missile program and then say that all of those missiles just happened to miss any targets that were intended to take American lives. You can't square that with a call by the Iranians to the Prime Minister of Iraq, who clearly would have informed us that missiles were coming if you wanted to have an attack that created ultimate consequences to American lives. And so I think that the facts belie what the administration is saying here as it relates to an intended attack with the purposes of killing Americans. I think it just adds to the concerns that I have, having come out of yesterday's briefing,
right,
and where I basically went in with 3 questions and didn't get the answers to any of them.
Let's talk about that intelligence briefing. Did you learn anything from that briefing that made you confident that what the Trump administration did in ordering General Soleimani taken out was the right thing?
No. On the contrary, I went with 3 very specific questions, which I got to ask. Number 1, what was the specific intelligence that led you to the belief that there was an imminent threat? 2, what was the threat? What was the nature of the threat? What were the targets? And 3, what was the intelligence that led you to believe that eliminating Soleimani alone, singularly, would have eliminated the threat? And the answer is I didn't get an answer to those substantive questions. And I think that colleagues continued to hear through their questions the lack of type of information that we need to not only have confidence in what the president did, as whether it was the right policy choice or not, but where we go from here as it relates to Iran. And that's the great concern. We can't just say take our word for it. This idea that you can't distill the intelligence in a way that preserves your sources and methods, but still gives us greater insight is unacceptable to many of us.
What is interesting is Senator Marco Rubio, your colleague in the Senate on the other side of the aisle, says that anybody who walks out of that briefing and said they weren't convinced that action against Soleimani was justified is either never going to be or just opposes everything Donald Trump does. Is Senator Rubio right, Senator Menendez? Do you just not like President Trump, so you're not happy with his actions?
I love my country more than I care about whether I like a president or not. That's not the issue. The issue is I'm not going to live through another weapons of mass destruction moment. I served in the House during the vote on the Iraq War. I did my due diligence on intelligence. I believe there was no clear and present danger, no evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and I voted against the war in Iraq. And the most important vote a member of the Congress can take is a vote on war and peace and life and death. I'm not taking anybody's word for it. It is not any disdain that I have for the president. I have, on occasion, worked with the president on Venezuela and other things. The reality is that turning this into a partisan fight or lens is simply unacceptable. I don't think that Rand Paul and Mike Lee, who both support the president overwhelmingly, have a great dislike for the president.
Senator, while you and I are having this conversation, Senator Mitch McConnell is on the Senate floor right now, and he is talking about impeachment. He is using, again, the words of Democratic senators, essentially saying they would like to see House Speaker Nancy Pelosi turn over the articles of resolution to your chamber to help make his argument. Senator Dianne Feinstein is among them. She says, if you're not going to do it, don't do it. And if you're going to do it, do it. She says, so I don't understand the delay, essentially. Is she right? Is it time for the House Speaker to just transmit the articles now?
I trust Speaker Pelosi in terms of her judgment. Look, the House went through an arduous process, both in the Intelligence Committee, the Judiciary Committee. I think that the Speaker just simply wants to make sure that the House gets a fair opportunity to present its case in the Senate in front of the American people. And every day that passes by, we have more disclosures of more information, more emails between relevant parties. John Bolton coming forward and say he would testify. All of these things ultimately lead to the critical question, why won't you permit witnesses and documents to take place in a Senate trial? Every American who has ever served on a jury, ever participated as a defendant, knows that witnesses and documents are essential to a trial.
Senator Robert Menendez, I appreciate your time and for you being back on the show. Thank you very much for your perspective. Senator Menendez, of course, is the top Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee.